Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Deed Harrison here of Chiropractic Biophysics Seminars and Technique and Chiropractic Biophysics Nonprofit, our spine research organization. We always have new guests, exciting information, brand new research, and clinical practice tidbits for you guys out there. Welcome to the Chiropractic Biophysics Podcast.
Hello, everyone in podcast land. This is Dr. Joe Ferrantelli. We're missing Dr. Deed. He got caught up in some things, and he'll try and drop in soon for us. But welcome to another edition. We've been consistent, I think, Dr. Jason. I think this is 2 weeks in a row, actually, not even twice in a month. We've actually done 2 in a row here, and I'm excited about our guest here. You want to go ahead and do the intro?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Ferrantelli. And, you know, we've brought the CBP podcast back since 2025. Our first reboot was December 2025 with you, Dr. Deed, and then myself, and we talked about all the current events in chiropractic. But we've been really consistent, and then I've been eager to get my friend, Dr. Sherry McAllister, to join us. And we have her here today. Hi, Dr. Sherry. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely delighted. And congratulations, gentlemen, after telling me you're one of the very first podcasts that chiropractic has ever seen. So that is a big feat in and of itself. And I'm honored to be with you both.
Yeah, it was funny
to have you.
It was really funny, the history behind it. I remember Deed's father, Dr. Don Harrison. I said, hey, Don, there's this thing coming out called podcast, and I just want you to talk with me, and I won't even interview. I just want to hear you talk about research. And he's like, why would anybody listen to this? I'm like, just trust me. Would you just trust me? It's going to be the future. I'm telling you. And this is 2007. And he's like, okay. And then he started like loving them. So, I mean, we have them going back pretty far. So yeah, it's the genesis. We just had lots of pauses over the years. That's for sure. But so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. So there's so much going on that you do, and we're going to really freeform today. But it was really important to me to see if we could talk about my favorite book right now, Adjusted Reality. Yes. And you're going to notice that I have it marked because I've got key elements in the book that have been really important to myself and my wife, Carrie Jaeger, who was also able to see the book get launched. So before I ask you my first questions for our audience, let me talk a little bit about my friend, Dr. Sherry McAllister, and who you are and what you've done, and then I'll shut up. So Dr. Sherry McAllister is currently the president for the Foundation of Chiropractic Progress. That's F4CP, and a fierce advocate for driving change and increasing awareness in drug-free pain management approaches, and really important whole being care. Her work has impacted millions, from elite athletes to everyday individuals who seek solutions for a better quality of life. She's featured in the top ranked magazines, also national television, and Dr. McAllister has been a powerful voice in modern healthcare. She has a doctorate in chiropractic, a master's in science, and executive leadership training from Stanford. Dr. McAllister has dedicated her career to increasing utilization of chiropractic care by bringing it to the evidence-based research and forefront. She served as an expert witness, taught at leading institutions, and consulted on groundbreaking health initiatives. She's been recognized with many prestigious awards throughout her healthcare career. Dr. Sherry McAllister, welcome to the Chiropractic Biophysics Podcast.
Thank
welcome.
You both. Appreciate having this time together because I know both of you have played such a fundamental role in our success. So first and foremost, grateful and thankful that you will, whenever I ask, you both step up and say, yes, okay, what do you need?
Yeah, 100%. That's absolutely true. So, well, in my reading of the book, there was 2 really key things that I took away, and it was the Visionary 6 and the Foundational 7. So the Visionary 6, whole being, self-healing, functioning, educating, preventing, and of course, last but not least, adjusting. Yep. And then the Foundational 7, investment, replenishment, nourishment, movement, again, adjustment, contentment, and revitalization. Do I have that right?
Fantastic. Well done. Thank you, Jason.
Good. Good, good, good. Well, so why don't we jump right in? And I want to start off with the book thesis. So your subtitle is Supercharge Your Whole Being. Would you tell us, Sherry, what your practical differences are between well-being and whole being in this model?
This really becomes a pinnacle choice because right now there are regulators and policymakers that are working on what is classified as whole person health and whole person opportunities. One of the things that I thought was really important is for us to kind of distinguish our opportunities from who we are as chiropractors, because we treat the human being as a whole. And that's why when we came into this, we being the foundation, looking at how we're going to maximize an impact around the world, we wanted people to see, what does whole being actually mean? And how do we create this both understanding of intrinsic and for where people are today, the direct or indirect inputs that happen in their life that we're trying to help them optimize, and we've been doing it for 130 years. So whole person health is beautiful, and the VA is doing a great job of it. And the well-being portion, this is a portion that really hurt my brain. So when I heard one of the people, the healthcare consultants that were talking about well-being, he said, "Why do you use that word? Because I don't know if you've done your homework." And I was like, uh-oh. So ignorance is not bliss. So tell me, when you say that, what homework should I have done? And the answer was, when you do a search on well-being, what you're going to end up with are the pharmaceutical products. Is that they have really hijacked a word which was supposed to be holistic, which was supposed to be all about how a patient lives in a world surrounded by natural options, and they made it theirs, and they did it wisely. They did it in the silence of the night, and they did it consistently. And here's where I thought we have a problem. If we continue to use this word well-being, what are we really doing? We're increasing the SEO of a company or a pharmaceutical company that already has a look at what we consider to be disease care, pushing it onto really optimizing someone's health. So whole being is a term now that's trademarked, and it's trademarked for the profession. And that, I think, really makes a big difference when you start talking about branding and trademarking. What do you own, and why do you own it?
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, and who would have thought, right? You wouldn't have thought of that the pharmaceutical folks took that over. So, okay, well, good catch. Something that I talked about in the last two podcasts, so I was really pleased to read this over the weekend. You talk about our healthcare system being fragmented. You talk about specialties. Specialties is a term we hear in medicine, and then chiropractic has its own version of that. In chiropractic, it's technique. So specialties, silos, symptom focus. So what does an adjusted reality look like in a normal person's week as opposed to a perfect wellness fantasy?
All right. Well, we have to be very honest with ourselves, because when you see where we're living in today's world, it's fractured. And it's fractured because people that were fractured delivered a system to us. And that system was called the International Classification of Disease Codes. In other words, this is our disease domain. So you can never get away from this because the insurance companies pay for it. And so when we start looking at where we are in today's world, we have to be very authentic and say, we live in a world where symptom care has always been the only way, because that all started in a framework that happened in 1942. And it was actually the World Health Organization that designed a framework that got the help from the AMA that said, how do we get these codes out there so that we know what we're paying for that? And it was an honest system based on disease care. What wasn't particularly friendly to us was that we were structured into this framework that never fit us. It was like that shoe that you really don't want to put on, but you know you have to. It's like your last pair of shoes, the only ones that go with your outfit or your suit. And it's like, I hate these shoes. Here's what we've done for 130 years. We've conformed. Our foot has completely been altered, and foot levels will so appreciate this analogy, is that once you get into a malformed shoe, The shoe reforms you, not the other way around. So we have been in this really unfortunate place where the ICH codes, wait a minute, Sherry, what did you just say? That's right. The codes we never got, the International Classification of Health and Prevention, they never got structured. So we're living in a structural alignment that has been fractured by the disease care people. And that, I think, is one that we have to embrace. So we have a moment now. I think the biggest ever gap in trust in what we do and why we have done it for 130 years that's now about to come together for us in a way that we've never seen before.
Yeah, that's really true. So we mentioned in our first two questions the foundation, and I said that you are the president of F4CP, and then you mentioned foot levelers. Would you spend a little time on foundation and foot levelers before I go to my third question?
Beautiful, because don't they go really well together? And the foundation of a body, it really is the foot because it hits the ground. The foundation of the foundation is really Kent. Kent Greenewalt is our chairman. He's also the founder of the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. He's also what I would classify as a futurist. He's someone who is consistently looking to the future and how do we be bigger, braver, and bolder. And I'm so continually grateful for our board, including our chairman, Mr. Kent Greenewalt, because I love that we're moving mountains, the metaphorical mountains that we did in Adjusted Reality. But I also love that the foundation has one purpose. It's a nonprofit. It's for everyone. It's for every single chiropractor. And it was the most beautiful thing because when I first was asked to volunteer, and I said, yes, I always say yes. And you both know I will say yes, is that I wanted to be in a very inclusive club. Everybody's involved. I don't care what technique you practice, what college you went to school, what your fundamental challenges are in your district or your state association. I just want you to know when you come to the foundation, we're here, we're solid, we're strong, and we're going to lift you up, everyone up. We're going to lift everyone up. When I go out on the road, wherever I go on the road, I am advertising for you. And because I'm with you, I'm a chiropractor too, I get the unique challenges. So thank you, Jason, for bringing it up, because without Kent in the support that he has given, I think 3 years ago, we did an analysis on his gifting because I needed to actually share that with a contact that reached out to us on it. And 3 years ago, he gave $35 million to this profession. I don't know anybody else who has given that much money to this profession. So with a big heart and a big thank you, I'm grateful to be able to sit in this position and move it forward with pride because I know that someone else has my back, or should I say my foot.
Yeah. Wow. I had no idea that he's given so much to chiropractic. And I mean, that's, using the foot example, that's where the rubber hits the road.
Right.
Thank you, Kent. Wow.
Yeah, that is amazing.
And you segued for me perfectly because the next thing I wanted to talk about was the mountain and valley metaphor. So why is staying healthy after the peak the harder part? And what do people typically do wrong once they've gotten that improvement at the peak?
Well, you see this with celebrities. In fact, I think a celebrity is a perfect analysis. Is they get to this peak, and what you see them do is almost shrivel up and die. It's an awkward place to be because you think to yourself, well, I've done what I needed to do, or I have as much money as any human person would ever want to go through. So money is no longer a thing. And that's a lot of people focus their life on how much wealth I'm going to build. Right. And what they fundamentally do wrong is they miss this really important, and I do not take it very lightly, because Socrates is a man we should all learn from. And even though he is in the past, we bring forth some of his teachings into today, and his comments and his quote, I need you to just reflect on for a second, is contentment is natural wealth. Luxury is artificial poverty.
Yeah.
And that's a really deep statement when you think through it. Is what most people do wrong is they think they want these luxurious items, but they artificially come to a place like the celebrities where it's like, I didn't get any enjoyment out of it. And now,
Right.
if you think about it for your health, so many people give away their health to get this wealth. I mean,
Yep.
I was treating in San Jose for 27 years, and I had what was called the C-suite practice. And I was 6 minutes from the San Jose airport. I got to treat the Fortune 50 C-suite. They didn't want anybody to know their business. They didn't even want anybody to know they were going to see a chiropractor. I'm good with whatever you want. I'm going to protect you in any way, shape, or form. 6 minutes with the executive assistant as they were coming in their car. We'd fill out the forms. The executive assistant would tell me what's going on. I would get everything in. I had 7 minutes with that executive, exactly 7, because I knew how long if they set a 30-minute appointment, it was 6 minutes to get to me, 7 minutes in the office. Then they'd have to get back into their Learjet, and it took at least 8 minutes to get to their private doc. So I had it timed in my mind. I knew exactly what they needed, and they wanted in and out. Here's what I noticed. They were the sickest, saddest, most depressed, most anxious people, and they're making 8 to 9 figures. And they wanted it to be quiet and fast. And they knew that if they didn't come to see me, they'd start falling apart. But the thing that really bothered me the most was the things that most people take for granted, is that their time was so valuable that they forego some of just life's greatest pleasures. Their loving relationships with their families, their faith, their spiritual faith was being compromised by some of the things that were happening around them. And so I started to recognize that this mountain that we're all climbing, we tend to give up sometimes a lot of things for it. And when we get to the peak, how do we stay there? And that, I think, is one of the things that really hit home with the audience when I start reading the Amazon comments. And trust me, not every day do I want to read them. But if you don't hear the bad, you'll never know the good.
True.
Yeah. Well put.
True.
Well put. When I was young, I grew up in Las Vegas, and early on, I got a job in show business. I ended up becoming one of the jousters and sword fighters and bannermen for King Arthur's tournament in the jousting show at the Excalibur Hotel. And I'll give away my age. I got that job in the 80s. So I am on the older swing of things. So I remember as a kid, and I'm starting college, and I was making some money. I had some dough in my pocket, and I had a little bit of mini Vegas celeb. And so I started to buy things for me and buy things for others. And I'm not an 8 or a 9 figure guy, but I remember exactly what you're pointing out, that hollowness in the things I was buying. And it struck me so early that you get way more value out of a dinner with friends and laughter, a date with your loved one, a quiet moment, a sunrise, a sunset, than you do when you buy stuff. So what a neat thing you were exposed to with the C-suite. Wow.
Yeah.
And it goes and shows too, is that, money can't obviously buy happiness, but it can't buy your health. I mean, it opens up doors, but they have to take the same steps that anybody at any financial responsibility for themselves has to go through. Now, sure, they can fly out and go to the best doctors in the world, but if they don't prioritize those things, they fall apart. And I mean, if you read any celebrities' books when they're dying, I mean, Steve Jobs, and the guy had all the money in the world, and he reflected on what was really important in those days, and unfortunately, people find that out too late sometimes. And it's nice that, people like Jason found it out earlier, and what a blessing that you got to see it early on in your career and see these people. So, yeah, I think a lot of people can realize that. Yeah, even in myself, when people say, well, what's your end goal, in life? Is it, to sell your company, to retire? I'm like, I feel like I'm retired. Yeah, I worked all day, but it's fun. I love this. I love being able to do something in our profession. And I get it. Like Jason and I were, we taught a seminar this weekend with Dr. Deed. Yeah. And when those CAs would come up, because there was a joint seminar with their staff and the doctors, they would say, wow, this really made a difference in my patient's life, what you guys put together here or there or another. That's what drives me. I mean, that type of stuff, and then afterwards we have dinner with all our friends, and you can't replace it. And I honestly, Jason, I think that's why we do all this, is to be with our friends, and because we're all in different states. So that definitely hits home. And, I thank you for sharing that. And thank you for having that in context.
Well, sorry.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I was going to say, you brought something up that I think is fundamental, is we are very, very fortunate as a profession, because we're small enough to really know each other, but we're still big enough to make a global impact. And we're also entrepreneurs. And one of the things that being on with my colleagues is like coming home. You have a warm hug and a fresh face, and you smile. But when you're on some of these podcasts where it's kind of like you feel like you're in the Shark Tank, one of the things on business is, they want to bring everything back to business because they're missing the big picture, and you get it already. But what's your capital runway? I got that question today, and I was like, hold on a second. I said, let's play a game. So you say business, I'll say chiropractic. So, okay, let's play the game. Capital runway. Okay, that's you. I understand that's how much money you can actually go until you have to close your doors. Okay, got it. That's like your physiological runway. So how long can you go before your body breaks down, Steve Jobs? Okay, go to the burn rate.
Yep.
Great. How much money are we burning every day? Great. How much cortisol is Steve Jobs giving up every day? Like, we needed to come down. If we could have Steve Jobs come back and we could have gotten him 20 years earlier, would we have been able to pivot him from ultimate disaster because he never gave himself downtime to neuroplasticity, where he leveled up and he had an impact like we have? We're among friends, and we have the greatest opportunity to change people's way of thinking.
Absolutely. Well said.
Gosh, so true. I was going to comment on one special moment I had this weekend in our retirement phase. And I flew up on Thursday to Idaho to go be at the Ideal Spine Health Center. Joe got there Friday. And a doctor that we trained 6 months ago that's been in chiropractic, I'm just going to guess 10 or 15 years. And he was looking for something else and something more with the structure and functional approach and the evidence-based approach you learn with CBP. He didn't smile once during the week long. The week long was 8 days, about 80 to 100 hours. It never clicked for him. And I saw the faces it clicked for, which I was so grateful for, but it's the guy it doesn't click for.
Right.
But he came back. He came back this weekend, and I saw him on Friday, and it wasn't clicking. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't vibing. His energy wasn't up. Definitely his cortisol was pumping. Saturday, just shaking his head, not getting it. And I started really leaning in on him, and I was pushing him, like, go. And I was always almost afraid that he was going to go, come on, man, stop. Sunday, end of the day, we're breaking down the conference. He walks out of the front door and he's smiling. And I was like, hey, how was it? And he goes, I get it. I see it. Right. And I saw him smile. I haven't seen a smile. I've known him for 6 months. I've only seen that.
Yep.
And I saw him light up, and I looked at my wife, Carrie, and I'm like, that's why we do this. That's what it's for. That's why we do this, why we're retired,
Yeah. And I would say that one of the docs too, he's much older than us, and he's practiced a long time, and he found us probably maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. And
Joey refound us. He refound us because he trained with Don. And then he went away, and then he came back at Austin, Texas 3 years ago, and his whole life's rebooted.
Yeah, and it's to see the just joy of him wanting to see patients again. And I mean, it just lit a fire. And he spoke to the videographers because we did some interviews and stuff. And the videographers came over to me and said, oh my gosh, Dr. Joe, you got to hear what he said. He was so amazing on his passion that came through for chiropractic. And it was just seeing how he affected these videographer kids, because they're in their early 20s, that not chiros or videographers. It was like, wow, and Who knows? He could have had the power to turn them into, I may have to go to chiropractic college, and it's really, I get more out of that in teaching. It's so much fun. And I would have never, ever thought I would be doing this, when I first set out to be a chiropractor. But man, it's so rewarding. It really is. But thanks for that little tangent, Jason. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome. We got to adjust a couple folks' reality, so that's great.
Yep.
That's it. There we have it.
All right, so let's go deeper into Vision 6. So Vision 6, it's the new operating system for healthcare. Which of the 6 is most misunderstood by the public, and which is most resisted by mainstream healthcare culture, Dr. Sherry?
Well, I think the ability for us when we start looking back, and especially I look around, if you're in your office and sometimes you're kind of thinking about what's surrounding me, what's my environment like? I think most people, they think they're getting the education that they want and desire. And I think as we get through a lot of what we do in life, we start to recognize that we're not listening. We may be hearing, but we're not really listening. And that's, I think, where we're fundamentally losing the ground that we've laid for 130 years. When I think about the visionary 6 and then the foundational 7, we have to start coming to a place where we're talking their language. And here's one thing that really bothers me, because I get to see a lot of different environments that I get in. And I hear this word back cracking all the time. And then I start to think, how did we get there for the public perception to see us as that? And then I start thinking, like, for example, CBP is you're foundational. It's decades of research. And what the public doesn't really understand is research-based care. And so when someone starts thinking back cracking, that sounds very simplistic. How do we start changing that? We're weak on the ability for us to really connect. They may be listening, but they're not hearing. And that's where I think chiropractic really has this moment to be this sterling and silver and be able to start talking in their realm. So what does that really mean? It means, for example, where you take a biophysics case and you lay it all out in their plan, you need to have commitment. You can't just think that this is just going to be one and done. And you also have to have that long-term structural correction education. And then you need trust. Yeah. So if you play that out into adjusted reality, we need to be able to have the people create a better listening moment. How do we do that? We get into everyday conversations, things they never even think about. Like, let's think about, I'm wearing the wrong bra. Now, most people are very uncomfortable when we start talking about that. But fundamentally, if you start thinking about how that can alter a person's life, it's not just about wearing the wrong bra and you're getting rashes or red spots. It's how you're holding your entire body. You think about the women that come in with corsets on and the structural weakness they're having, the wrong heavy winter coat. It's like we now need to be functionally with them every step of the way. And that's where we make a difference, is we're going to make it the common everyday man and woman's reason to find a chiropractor in their lifestyle. So education, I think, is one of the biggest pieces that we have gotten, not wrong, but just not as amplified as I think it needs to be.
Yeah. Well said. And, it's interesting. We've also talked on our podcast over the last 2 months, this concept of cultural authority with chiropractic. And we all on the call, we agree that the general public gives medicine MDs cultural authority for sure. That's the go-to for most people when you think about the authority in healthcare. But then we're seeing a shift, aren't we? We really are seeing, well, all of us have been around long enough. When we just got out of school, it was, I'm a chiropractor. Oh, now it's, I'm a chiropractor. Really?
Yeah.
Right. That's changed. You guys see that like on airplanes?
100%.
Right. I always walk on a plane with my CBP shirt on. I always have a shirt on that says chiropractor and Dr. Jason or Dr. Jaeger or Dr. J. And it's different now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So then switching from Visionary 6, let's go into Foundational 7 again. Foundational 7, it feels both like a patient roadmap and then a professional narrative. So if someone adopts only 2 pillars first, which 2 create the biggest cascade effect and why?
Okay, my 2 favorites, really truly from the bottom of my heart, are clearly I probably wouldn't be a chiropractor if I didn't say this one, the adjustment. That has to be. Like, there's nothing bigger, broader, bolder, braver, and more beautiful than the chiropractic adjustment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, having said that, I want to go to what I consider to be the second most important. And most people will be surprised by my choice, but it is, in fact, chapter 2, the replenishment chapter, because it is the easiest way to open people's eyes to what's really going on. Every single person has a cell phone nowadays in the United States. And when you talk to them about don't plug your phone in for 2 nights and see what happens, they're like, well, then it's dead. Oh, really? That's weird. Why would that be? Because we didn't charge it. What does the charging do? Energizes it. And all of a sudden I'm like, do you think you can go into sleep hygiene, going 2 days with poor sleep? Sure, I can go. I can like talk to a student, a college student. Yeah, I could go probably 2 hours for one night and then an hour the next night. Really? Okay. So your operating system that you think is so great on your phone can only go 24 hours before it really does need to charge. There's a master plan here. It's called the operating system in your brain. And the only way that you can recharge it literally is through sleep. Literally, that's the research. And if we get sleep hygiene right, and that's why I push really hard to get onto the scientific podcast, because that's when you get ground down and they want to talk about the deep neural processes that happen and the replenishment and the cycles and the REM cycles and the melatonin and what happens with serotonin. And I totally love that. I can get deep down into the weeds with you. But what I really think is happening in today's world is we're starting to figure out that when we actually do take care of the operating system, which is our brain, and you make it this simple, you can go in the hospital right this very moment. Lord forbid you have to. And your heart stopped. The beauty, many times we can restart it. Now you go into the hospital and your brain stops. There's no way to fix that. That's it. That's all you get. That's time out. You now are dead. That's it. It's so simple. It's so real. There's no way to fix a broken number 1 operating system in the entire world. There's no machine better for now, and I hope never, that runs as effective and as beautifully as our brain. And so when you think about what you really are, and I had this conversation, and for the listeners, you don't get to see this. I have this card right in my hand right now. 3 weeks ago, in my brain, thought this man was going to laugh and walk away from me. He is the chief executive officer for the World Brain Mapping Foundation. He is one of the highest, well-known neurosurgeons in the world. And I told him I was a chiropractor and I'd love to work with him. And I thought he was going to start to laugh and walk away. But I thought, what the hell? What do we have to lose?
Exactly.
I'm like, you don't know how the brain works? I don't know how the brain works. Let's come together. And it was an immediate moment of reflection first, because how many chiropractors really have that boldness to say, I'm with you? Because 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been a little bit afraid that he's going to laugh at me and say, you're a what? And yet here we are today, sitting and talking, and he invited me to his conference, and he wants to collaborate with the foundation to see how we can move the needle for everyone. So that, I think, is the moment where we reflect on our second chapter, replenishment, is how we get people to really, truly understand that if you're not sleeping, your system's breaking.
Yeah. Bravo.
Yeah.
Last night, I flew back last night. I was going to be in Boise today. And I flew back last night because I wanted to be replenished enough for our podcast today. But on the plane, I think I landed in Vegas about 10 o'clock at night. And so I did take a nap, Boise to Seattle, and I did take a nap, Vegas, or Seattle to Vegas, to get home so I could go to bed.
So my replenishment was a little less than yours, Jason, because I live in Florida. Just saying. So I didn't get to sleep until 1 a.m. And so tonight's going to be an early night, because the one thing, Sherry, that I really prioritize, even with trying to get ready for Parker, I always strive for 8 hours of sleep no matter what. And I'm one of the rare people, I can fall asleep anywhere, anytime. As soon as I'm comfortable, I can fall asleep. And boy, I always do. I always try to set and have a set time that I always go in. And if I have too much work, okay, it's going to be there. Like, really, what's the big deal? If it doesn't happen today, there's another day, and there in my family, there is instances on my mom's side of like dementia and Alzheimer's. And also on the other side, diabetes. And what do those have in common, right? So I sit and say to myself, if there's one thing that I will do, it's going to be sleep. And I think that's one of the reasons why my dad, suffered when he did and had a stroke early on, was because he was a cop, and cops do not sleep. And, with the hours that they do. So I made a conscious effort probably about 10 years ago, because I even noticed my brain malfunctioning to where, like, I was always in a fog. And of course, I changed my nutrition. And of course, before anybody out there says anything, yes, I get adjusted. Come on. But I noticed that, sleep, wow, what a difference especially uninterrupted, and not having blue light in your eyes right before you go to bed, and shutting off electronics, and maybe even thinking about turning off the Wi-Fi or getting it away from your room, and all those things, and prioritizing. And I don't think I think they're waking up to it, no pun intended. But I think that at least now, based on what it is that we've done and what RFK has brought in and things like that, to where I think there's been a movement, especially since COVID, for people to be more aware of the quote alternative voice on other things that are important, and it doesn't come from outside in. And so that's one thing. Sleep is really important for me, so I just had to put it out there. And I'm deprived right now, Jason, so I just want to put that out there. But when I fly out to where you're at, I'll be wide awake, because I'll get an extra 3 hours of sleep in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. The gift that keeps on giving when you come to the West Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the West Coast time zone. Vegas isn't West Coast. But, okay, well then I want to actually shift back to the 6 then for a moment. Dr. Sherry, you place education in the Visionary 6.
Yeah.
What does a world-class patient education look like in 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and then over a year?
A world-class patient. So when I look back and think about the patients that I've treated, is one being the level of stress. So what's first and foremost that 15-minute patient? So what does it take to connect with them? I see this, we have lots of downstream movements that happen in our world today, but what's the upstream? How do we get them to see what is beyond the symptoms? So when we think about what drives their world, we have to connect with them. So we have to be able to showcase how their body is not about symptoms. Because if it was, all of us would have our teeth fall out before we went to a dentist. And I love the dentist experience, because they're the first and only ever practitioners who have really gotten the proactive reality in.
Yep.
And then you start thinking about, in the chiropractic world, we don't want to chase pain. It's never been our gain. It's never been something that really helps. So the 15-minute future patient stops thinking about symptoms. And now the next time frame is the patient who's been in treatment. Now they're starting to get out of and start to realize that there's something called a burnout culture. And that means that the stress overload, the lack of all of the 7 visionary pillars start to fall apart for them. Stress is part of their narrative, and they are part of the reactive model. And what that patient, well, they're not necessarily now thinking about their symptoms. They're not thinking about themselves. And that is one thing that really I've seen really collapse over the course of the last 10 years is self-love. And you see it, and I think it was brought to bear because of my dear friend, Anna Lepke, who's the chief addictionologist at Stanford University. She's written 2 books. She's a brilliant lady. We've had some really, really good conversations. I adore her. And she said, today's environment, as her second book is dopamine nation. And if you get these quick hits all the time, you're looking for constant feedback. And you're getting it when you play video games. You're getting it when you search the web. It's that constant feedback loop of more love, more love, more love. It's not love. So social media has really taken away what really was self-love, and it's put into these little dope hits. You think it's fun. It's actually not. It's taking away your happiness. It's driving you farther away from taking care of yourself because you're so addicted to these small things that are making huge impacts in their lives. So I take it back to that next patient, that patient that's moved past symptoms, to the patient that needs to look in the mirror. Do you really, truly love yourself? Because when you love yourself, you do different things. And you respond more kindly to other people. So I get on an airplane and this man is harassing this lady because she's got a walker. And I think to myself, what's happening here? And I slowly and very kindly said, I understand that we're all in a hurry and the plane is going to accommodate all of us. And I hope that your day goes better so that you can reflect that you have time on the plane to just relax. And he looked at me and I thought he was going to yell at me. And he said, you're right. I'm embarrassed by my actions. Wow. I said, don't be embarrassed. Just know that we're all in the same boat and we're all having stress. And I think if you self-love and you give yourself a time to just take that big breath in before you want to go, and just have a moment, it's okay. That's self-love. Now you ask me, what about that patient way in the future? What does that patient look like? It looks like us.
Yep.
This is the patient of the future. I don't need to be falling apart. I don't need to chase a symptom. I'm on fire. I'm ready to go. And I live for my adjustments. I want my next adjustment right now. I think the patient of the future is going, you know what? It's not that I'm feeling the fog. I'm not really feeling, out of balance. And, my dearest friend, Heidi Horvick, would say it's smudging. It's not pain, it's smudging. That would be the gift of the future. I'm smudging right now. I look forward to going to Parker because I know I'm going to find 5 of my best friends. And I'm like, hey, you want to give me a thoracic adjustment?
Yep.
That's the patient of my future.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. I know over the weekend, all of us, we jumped around and got adjusted by each other. And we probably get adjusted 6 times in 3 days. And then Wednesday, it's going to all start over again when everybody converges on Vegas.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So then let's switch into some investment. So you described health as compounding returns. What are the highest ROI investments you've seen for a busy executive who wants longevity without life overhaul?
So when we start talking investments, the first one, I think, I just want to go back for just a second and give Lou Sportelli a big shout out because
Hi, Lou.
I would say Dr. Sportelli opened hundreds of thousands of eyes by being able to commit to contain and eliminate. So that investment chapter, as we say, the investment in what happened to us, in how the AMA did take us on, and how we were fortunate to win thanks to some very big friends and the Wilkes family, and the ability for many people to rally around that time was our investment. But when we start thinking about that CEO who's looking at life kind of like a precision machine, what does it look like? So most CEOs that are investing in data-informed decisions. They're looking at artificial intelligence. They're looking at evidence awareness in how they're going to look at life. And they're also looking at strategic investments for what the future is going to look like. Now, if we recalibrate them into our future and we start talking about life in the calibrated force that goes into a human being, and the chief operating officer or the chief executive officer starts to get that when we expand our capacity, meaning the ability to be fluid and creative and to really be able to handle all of the business acumen that they have to do, their systems are going to flow better. And one piece to this is I wrote an article for Forbes, and I did it, and it hasn't been released yet, but I know exactly how it's going to have interplay. Is I took and I also helped to trademark this word. So your audience is going to hear it here first. So that's cool.
That's really cool.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Ready.
All right, you're on your edge of your seat. I amplified this adjusted reality and turned it into how do we bring artificial intelligence into our world? And I called it adjusted intelligence.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that's AI, but it's our AI. It's what good, in all respect to all of those people making these fantastic wearables, if you don't have someone who can actually walk the walk with you, who can talk the talk. You can have all the tools, but if you don't know how to use them well, what difference does it make? And that's what I want every CEO to understand, is it's about being able to maximize the tools that you have and do it in a way that fundamentally changes everything. So when you have a wearable and an artificial intelligence, we're talking about creating a future where we can look at the wearables, we can look at a gait analysis, look at postural challenges that we have. Because, you know, Dr. Ferrantelli, when I went to the New York Fashion Week, without you, it would have been a bust because people need to see it. The five senses come together. And we got to New York Fashion Week with a postural analysis that blew their minds. Like they're walking by and they're like, whoa, what's that? How does that work? And I think the vision of the future for a chief executive officer or a high level person is to see that adjusted reality turns into adjusted intelligence by AI being good for human consumption, and that we don't let artificial intelligence take over our world, but rather they augments our world, and we have agentic choices, and we really have a sovereign body that we're willing to maximize and to have all of the flow, the capacity being able to give us back. And that's a chiropractor. I don't know any other doctor, and I'm being very serious. I've been everywhere. I've talked to everyone. I do not know a better doctor that's willing and able to help someone move from the beginnings of time structurally to the function of time and be able to augment their proactive behavior than a chiropractor.
Well
Bravo.
said.
Bravo.
Yeah.
That's Joe. That's going to be a 30-second clip that's going to go
think
viral
so.
right there.
I think so. Yeah, we need
powerful.
I need to mark that. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Bravo. Okay. Well, then let me go to nourishment. In the book's critique of modern inputs, how do you help a patient avoid being seduced by food messaging and keep nutrition simple?
It starts with who we are from a fundamental aspect. When you start thinking about nourishment, what are we nourishing our bodies with? And how does that look from an adjusted reality perspective? And this is not rocket science, but I will tell you this. When people know better, they have a choice to do better. And we think about nourishment, we're not trying to restrict them and we're not trying to regulate them. What we're really trying to do is tell them how their nervous system is fueled by the energy that they put in, just like their phone when you plug it in, that's the energy. Well, what's the energy we're putting into our bodies? How do we create neurotransmitters that are well kept, that aren't being denied the fundamental pieces that they need? And when you think about Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and even when you get concussion syndromes, you know, you think about amyloid plaquing and what that does, hormonal imbalance, because we're having foods that are just jacked up with all sorts of other unnutritious moments. Give some thought to your gut. Like, if you start thinking about the most primordial function of any cell, it's the mitochondria. And when you think about that gut-brain communication, most patients get overwhelmed when you start talking that way, but here's the bottom line. If nourishment is poor, signal transmission is compromised. Ooh, Dr. McAllister, what do you mean? What I mean is, if you feed it poorly, your Wi-Fi connection goes sour. You know what a Wi-Fi connection does that no longer starts working for you? Then they start to get it. Like, laugh with them, not at them. And then all of a sudden the nourishment chapter starts to make sense. The brain fog, mood instability, fatigue, pain sensitization. It's bringing it back to, if it was close to natural, then you should eat it. How much processing is going on? Because when you get to the natural portion, less noise, clearer signal, better adaption. Is that not what you want in your life? That's what I want in my life. The nourishment chapters, it's the why. Here's the fundamental part about writing the book. Every chiropractor is the how. The only reason that the book was written was to explain the why.
Yeah.
Why is it important to see a chiropractor? You're the how. How you do it, I could care less. Okay, I'm kidding. I want you to be the best evidence-informed CBP doctor ever in the world, ever. But I also want you to recognize that it's the patient that needs to see you that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. The why, Simon Sinek, right? That's his banter. And he uses the difference in comparison. One of his snippets is Apple products do such a good job of saying the why, where Microsoft is like, this is how, and Apple is why. So you hear this out there, chiropractors, the how is in adjusted reality. So this needs to be a part of your report of findings. It needs to be a part of your home rehabilitation kit. Patients need to go home with this, because we are how, but the book is why. That's good. Okay, so as we start to get onto the sunset of this really great hour, I'm going to give you a challenge question, Dr. McAllister. We're going to do one lightning question, and then on the CBP podcast, a hallmark of what we always do is we finish the podcast with a research paper. And normally that's Dr. Deed's realm, so I'm going to be his pinch hitter, and I'll do a review of one of the papers that I published through Chiropractic Biophysics nonprofit. All right, so here we go. Challenge question. One of your reviews, one of the Amazon reviews, it notes that the book can assume lifestyle change is easy for regular folks. But what about somebody that's got chronic illness or disability, or they've got older age constraints? How would you adapt the foundational 7 for someone who has that genuine capacity limitation?
Well, this is a really important question, because people start on the mountain at different places. And they also start, some of us are wearing high heels when we climb the mountain. Some of us are carrying 50-pound bags when we're climbing the mountain. Some of us are not wearing a backpack. We're actually carrying a purse, and it's on the right side. So I get the question. I think it's a fundamentally incredibly important part. It's adaptation. We can't all start at the same part, but we can get to the same destination. What does the destination look like? It's a destination where we're using all our skill sets. You ask someone in the Paralympics, what does it feel like to be a Paralympian? Do you feel the stress or strain of not being able to be like an Olympian? And they stop and they look at you like, say, what?
Yeah,
right.
Because that really is where we begin our journey together. Is you can't focus on the symptom. What you can focus on is, what are the resources that you have to be able to get to where you want to go. And that is everybody's journey. This journey is not about being an elite athlete and making it to the top as fast as you can. We're all on it together. We just start at different points, and we have a few things that may be hindering us. You know, as I was writing the book, I was thinking, like, in my good old days, I'd have a baby on my hip. I'd be answering the phone on the other side, and then I would have a patient in room 2 who is just about ready to come off of electric stim. And I was thinking, which one goes first? Do I hang up on the person? Do I drop the child? Or do I run to the room? So yes, you get it. It's complex, but the beauty is you design the system. You're the thumbprint. No one else is like you. No one else lives your life. No one walks in your shoes. And then, the nice part is, when you decide what your mountain summit looks like, don't let anybody take it away from you.
Well
Dr.
said.
McAllister, you're good. Wow, that was
Yes.
good. I like it. Okay, lightning round. I'm going to give you 4 questions. You have either 10 seconds for each or 10 words. Are you ready?
Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to try
Yeah.
really hard.
All
10
right,
words. Wow.
10 seconds or 10 words. So,
Okay.
one pillar you think is overrated by wellness culture, one that's underrated.
Contentment is underrated. Overrated is investment.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Number 2, your minimum effective dose for movement on a terrible day.
10 words. Every 30 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Good.
Cool.
Good
I
one.
like it. All right. A belief you had early in practice that you've changed your mind about.
I can heal the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one. Your favorite way to explain whole being to a teenager.
Video games.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we
Very
go.
well. Very good.
Good job. For the
Yeah.
listeners, there's no prep. She had no prep for any of this. So you're talking about a skilled orator here.
I would say, because you know what, I'm worried as like, are you going to ask me those questions? Because I wouldn't be as well polished. That's for sure. That was very good answers. That was great.
I have
And
a
Jason,
sympathetic response happening right now.
yeah. And what's funny about this whole thing is Jason didn't tell me he was going to do any of this, nor, I mean, I said, Jason, I'll be on like 5 minutes before. And, yeah, you surprised me with this as well too, Jason. This has been amazing having you here, Sherry, for sure.
Thank you. I am
Yes.
truly blessed that I could spend time with you, because I think at the end of the day, we're all in it together. We love this profession more than life itself. And as we move through and we strategize together, how do we get this out to the biggest audience ever? And it's really just love. It's my mentor said, who's 94, it's hand-to-hand combat. It's shaking a
Yep.
hand. It's loving the person. It's loving ourselves.
Yeah, and
Wow.
Jason, you would have something like transitioning this, something that we've all seen in practice. You have a study on and how adjusting and taking care of somebody can make a world of difference. And it was a case study that you did. Can you go ahead and talk a little bit about it? Because I don't think enough students know the power of what we do when we adjust subluxations. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So this paper, I chose to speak on this because it's not about symptoms. And it was a patient that came to me snowbirding in Vegas, referred from another chiropractor. We published this paper in the Journal of Vertebral Subluxation. So this is a peer-reviewed journal, but it's not a PubMed journal. This is my first paper ever, and I did it jointly with a chiropractic student at Life University in Georgia. And that student's name, he's been a chiropractor for 10 years now, 12 years, is Lyle Burkhart. So Lyle took the CBP coursework with us, reached out to me, and he said, Dr. Jaeger, can we do a case together? And so we collaborated on this, and really one of my favorite papers. So it's on urinary incontinence. Now, we are not saying that chiropractic or chiropractic biophysics cures urinary incontinence. Okay, I want to do that preamble. But what we are saying is a patient came to us, and they didn't necessarily come to us because they had pain. The patient knew she had postural abnormality. She did have symptoms, of course. It's pretty common for that to be a trigger to go to a chiropractor. And then through the initial exam and the workup, it became evident that she was on a medication that was about $500 a month, really, really expensive. She's retired. And so what she'd do is bite the pill in half. She only took half a dose because she couldn't afford the 500. She needed to make it 250 a month. And then despite that, she had to wear an adult diaper always, and she always had leakage, right? And so I don't have that. I don't know what it's like. I pray to God I never do, and nobody else ever does. but I can put myself in her shoes and understand just how frustrating, embarrassing that would, uncomfortable that would be for her. So here's what we did. We did not say we were going to cure urinary incontinence. We did not say that we could promise any effect in that. In fact, there was no attributable research to support that, but we wanted a really clear health picture of this patient. And so in her postural analysis, the major part of her body, her trunk, had a massive shift over to the right-hand side, 46 millimeters,
Wow.
just going off of recollection. I don't have the paper up in front of me. And this is a really big part of what chiropractors talk to the patients about, a loss of the normal curve in the neck. Cervical lordosis was reduced. So we started a general course of chiropractic with her that included adjustment. As the symptoms and the movement and the range of motion and the overall health started to improve, we added in exercise. But what's hallmark with chiropractic biophysics is mirror image exercise. In other words, normal exercise is I'm working out to strengthen muscles symmetrically, right? Chiropractic biophysics exercise in the CPT code world is neuromuscular reeducation, NMR, postural abnormality. So exercising asymmetrically to find symmetry, to find balance, doing exercises for the back or the posterior neck muscles to help strengthen and create range of motion with the neck. The largest part of the spinal cord is at the neck, and it goes to every muscle and organ and tissue in your body. CBP, the adjustment is traction. The adjustment is traction. And it's not long axis distraction or intersegmental traction. It's a scientifically chosen specific care plan of 2 and 3 point bending traction that is a long adjustment over about 15 minutes. So the patient went through a course of care. Our care plans are typically 3 to 4 times a week, and it'll be around the 8 to 12 week range. And then how do you do an appropriate evidence-informed clinical assessment of whether there's efficacy in the care that you did? Well, you do a re-exam, you do orthopedic tests, you do range of motion, you do neurological tests, and you take an x-ray of the regions that you intervened on to determine if there's a need for a follow-up in care. Well, we had with her about 8 weeks. And so we took an x-ray a couple days after her last treatment. And then when we looked at her x-rays, we saw about a 75% reduction of that thoracolumbar shift back towards the midline, and about a 15-degree improvement in the neck curve, getting her cervical lordosis about in the normal range within that initial round of care. Well, then she had to go back to the Midwest. Her summer in Vegas was over. But she said, Dr. Jaeger, the x-rays are great,
Yep.
They're great, thank you, but I want to tell you something. I stopped taking my medication for the urinary incontinence. And I'm like, well, first of all, medication intervention isn't what we do. And so I want to let you know that that's between you and your prescriber. But would you tell me why? She said, well, I'm not leaking anymore. I don't have urinary incontinence. I don't have a diaper on. I haven't taken the medication. I'm like, how long have you not taken the medication? She said, well, I've been with you a couple months. It's been about a month.
Wow.
I go, that's a good amount of time. Have you ever in your time with this medical condition had a period of time where you didn't have incontinence that long? And she said, no, and especially not without the medication. I've been off the meds. I'm off the diaper. She goes, I really think that the work we did, this structural change, made a difference in my bladder function and this condition of urinary incontinence. So we thought this was important enough to publish it. And so we did. And it's interesting because I have a really good buddy in Vegas, Dr. Scott Baranoff, who's an MD and a urologist, and he saw the paper come out and he called me up. He's like, so you're butting in on my territory. And I said, no, Scott, I'm not. I go, but what an interesting case. He goes, it really is. He goes, we the urologists forget about the approach you took, and it's eye opening for me. And thank you for putting that out in the peer reviewed literature so that we could be aware of it too. So that is our CBP case study. That we're wrapping up our amazing interview with Dr. Sherry McAllister. And I just can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here. I know you just got off a plane too.
Yep.
You're about to get on a plane again. And I can't wait to see you in Las Vegas.
Outstanding. Such a beautiful way to end this. And you think about how physiology is the adaptation of what we do every day. And I think that's why chiropractic is going to lead in the area, because it's all about optimization of our physiology, and well done for being able to get that information out into the ethos and help doctors be better and be able to share that gift with their patients.
Yeah. And I do have one last question. If somebody wants to find out in podcast land listening to this, how can they learn more about the foundation? Can you tell, and also about where they could get your book?
Absolutely delighted. So the first thing I would want everyone to do is really find out more about who we are by going to f4cp.org. That's our website. To become a member is very simple, and every single donation means the world to us to be able to go as far and wide as we can. The Adjusted Reality book, well, you can find that anywhere. Walmart, Target, wasn't easy to get there, but we got there. Amazon, but if you buy the Amazon book, listen, I'll tell you, do make a review. It's on sale right now. And there's a reason it's on sale, is we want bigger, better, and more people to get it into their hands. But also the book bundle buys are really important to learn more about it, because if you can make this something that goes into every patient's new packet, or you can take it to a local high school, take it to your staff. I mean, give it to your staff so they can give it to their loved ones, so they can have that patient gift that keeps on giving, and be able to talk to high school teachers, guidance counselors. We need to grow our profession. In that last chapter on lifestyle, like, we live a lifestyle. We don't have a job. Well, none of us have a job. We have a lifestyle. Right. We'll never retire. We're always trying to give our best to the world. So I think that's fundamentally it. A book bundle buy can be found there if you go to f4cp.org/adjusted reality. There's a promo code. You get 50% off all of the books. They can be delivered right to your office. You can get that book bundle buy of 10 out. Probably if you blinked your eyes 10 times, 10 people that need to see and hear and listen to the message, because I think we brought Simon Sinek up really well. And it's the one quote that I think I love the most is, let's just focus on long-term success. And his focus was, if you focus on long-term success, then be willing to make short-term adjustments to get there. That's his quote. Bravo. So can our profession make a time this entire year to get Adjusted Reality into the biggest audience ever on earth, to know what we do and why we do it, and to get those accolades? And we've got a new accolade coming up in April that I want to tell you, but I'm not going to share it on this show because I already broke a bunch of embargoed information already. So come with us on the journey, because we're all in it together. We're all in it to win it. And I know we're winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Dr. Sherry McAllister, Adjusted Reality. Everybody, the world, get adjusted so we can come into alignment. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you.